Hi and welcome to the Drawing Documentation Advanced training. This training module will base further on the Drawing Documentation Basic module. So it's recommended that you follow that one before you follow this one. In this module you will learn how to advance your sheets and schedules, how to work with our templates, and how to customize your future generated drawings. So we will start off by launching BricsCAD. Just launched the BIM module. You're probably familiar with the launcher by now because you already followed a lot of trainings if you are following the Drawing Documentation Advanced module. So we will open a drawing. You can go to your starter file. So I'm in the starter files now, and to Drawing Documentation Advanced. You see there is an exercise and a sample project. The sample project is just to show you what is possible. The exercise is what we will do now. So you can open the master, and then you will see a project. If you go to the project browser, you see that there is an entire project here. How come that you see this as a project? If you go back to your starter files, just to see what's inside this folder, to the exercise, you see that there is a project root file here. This is what keeps your project together, so all your models are grouped in this project root file. You also see that there is three drawings, building 1, building 2, and master. These are the drawings that are inside the project. Then you see a .basis lib file. This is a database file which keeps together all your materials, or all your compositions, your profiles, and so on. And then there is a project.dst file. This keeps together your sheets, and then you have your sheets with all the sheets in there that we created in the starter, in the basic module. So because we have a project root file, it finds this project with all these sections, with already a scheduled doors, with some sheets. Some of them are out of date, some aren't. So you can always remember, right click to update them, and then or you can enable background update to do it in the background. And then you see also the models, the building 1, building 2, and the master. So that's good. Now you see that these are 2 XREFs, so external references. These are a reference to another drawing, and that's just viewed inside this drawing. You see now that my fade control is not so good, so this is a setting. You can't see my XREFs that clearly because I have this setting add a fade control. So XREF database fade control, if I put it on 0, the fade will be 0. If you just region your drawing or draw something in your model space, then you see that the XREFs are not faded anymore, which is the behavior that I wanted in this drawing. So we will see the generated drawings. We will check what we actually generated. So if you go to ground floor, you can right click and display view. And then you see there are some walls that are sectioned through with some hatch patterns. There are some tags, there are some symbols, there are room tags. So all these things we will now discuss in more detail. So I want you to open your layers panel, and here you see a bunch of layers. They are mainly grouped in 3 groups. If you search on background, you will see a bunch of background lines. So that's the first group. If you search on boundary, you will see a bunch of boundary lines. And if you search on fill, you will see a bunch of fill lines. So there are mainly three groups that are important when you look into your layers, and that's boundary, background, and fill layers. I will just show you in a new drawing how this is made. So, or how these layers come into existence. So I will just draw a box here and draw another box a little bit behind it. And then I will create two layers, two new layers, new layer 1 and new layer 2. I will give new layer 1 a green color and new layer 2 a red color. And the first element I will put onto new layer 1, and the second element I will put onto new layer 2. And then I will just save my drawing onto my desktop. It's just an example, you don't have to do this yourself, but I will now create a section through the first one and not through the second one. So you see it's sectioning the first one and not the second one. So then I make the section and I open the section. So I generate and open the section, and then you see this. If you go to the layers, you see all the new layers that are created. So first of all, we have the fill layer. We have one fill layer in this case, namely fill layer underscore the layer name of the green object that is sliced through. And if I put this fill layer off, you will see that the fill of this solid is gone. So the fill layer creates the hatch pattern of the cut through volume. Then the boundary volume is we have one boundary volume, and that's the one with the green icon, because the boundary volume is what you the boundary of what you cut through. So we cut through only an element at new layer 1, so that's why only new layer 1 is there. And then we have two background layers, one for the new layer 2 and one for new layer 1. If I put them off, you see that the red box disappears. This is because background lines show everything in the back and they make lines from it. And then to conclude, I can turn off the boundary layer, and that's, as I said, the cut through volume. If we are dealing with solids which have no composition, then the standard extension of how the layer name is made will be the name of the layer on which the solid is. So fill underscore new layer, or background underscore new layer 2. And then the color will also be the same as the color of the layer which it started from. But if I now go back to this drawing, and if I put a composition, for example, the cavity wall brick, if I add this to my drawing and I save the file and I regenerate my section, and I open my section, then you will see the color is no longer the one of the layer. It's now predefined by something else. And what is that something else? Well, if you now open the layers panel, and if I just purge my layers so that I don't have any layers that aren't used anymore, then you see I now have a bunch of other layers that I didn't have before, namely background facing wall hand formed, fill facing bricks hand formed. So each time now I have the fill background or boundary with underscore the material name that was part of the composition. So the composition exists out of, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4 plies, and they each have their own material. And it's this material that gets a naming in the layers. So each layer with a hatch pattern attached to it, each material with a hatch pattern attached to it will come into the layers category. So if I turn off fill hand formed, I can turn off just fill of the facing bricks hand formed only. So if I turn off installation, it will only be the installation, and they each get a specific color. If you change this color, for example, if I change the installation to bright red, you will see that the installation turns bright red. So in this sense, you can customize the entire view of how your style or how your plan drawing looks like. And the same principles apply. Background is what you are not cutting through. Boundary is the boundary of what you're cutting through, and fill is the hatch pattern of what you're cutting through. So that's basically how the layers are created, and you don't need these drawings anymore. You can see that in these sections as well. If I go to the fill, sorry, let me just search for fill in the layers. Then I can turn off the installation, for example, or I can turn off the supporting wall. So you can turn off these layers all individually. So that's how the layers are created. And you might wonder, how can I customize? For example, I want my supporting walls to always be displayed in green. How can you change it? Well, you could of course change it in every drawing, but that's a bit of a hard job. So we do have a template for this, which is located in the support folder. You can just type support folder in as a command, and you enter the support folder. If you then go to BIM and then to sections, you will have the section settings.dwg. If you open that one, you will see a nearly empty drawing with some section planes in there. And then if you open the layers panel, it's far from empty. You will get a whole long list of layers. And for example, the fill layers, for each material that is in the standard material browser that is standardly provided by us in the database, you will have a standard representation. So for example, aluminum is standardly represented in blue. If you would change these colors here, so if you change the style of this layer here, you will change it for all your future drawings. So you could also choose to, for example, change the boundary of each insulation extruded polystyrene to a very fat line. Then this is also possible here by just instead of changing the color, you can then change the line weight here. So that's all customizable. So that's what you can do. Something which is also good to know is that if you enter here the section plane settings, you will find all these sections that are represented in your drawing will come here in the Explorer. You will find them, and they will all have some settings, such as you can see that the intersection boundary will go to the layer boundary and then the entity layer, or as said, if it's a composition, to the entity ply material. And the fill layer will go to the fill _ entity layer. So this is the standard behavior of where the entities will be written to, or on which layer they will be written. The hatch scale you can define, the line type, the line thickness. So standard, the color, for example, and the line type and weight as well, they are set to by layer. And if this is by layer, it means that the layers that are defined here in this section settings DWG will take over from this line type. So if you would want every boundary line to be red, then you could specify it here. And you see that there is a detail section, there is an elevation section, there is an interior elevation section, there is a plan section. So these are all sections types which can then be applied if such a type of section is made. These settings that you specify in this template drawing will be copied over to your drawing. So if, for example, I would open one of these XREFs, and so then you will see that there is also some section plane settings in this drawing. And these drawings, so for back, front, left and right, these will be copied, these settings will be copied from elevation, section settings, section plane, because it's the type is an elevation, and then you will get all these settings. You can manually adjust them in one drawing as well, but then it's only adjusted for one section and not for all future sections. So that's why you can change it into the section settings DWG as well. So that was it about the section settings and how you can customize your layers and your colors of your section planes. So now you understand how the layers were created. But there is still a layer that we haven't given any attention just yet, and that's the BRX layer. That's the symbol layer. We already briefly covered it in the basic drawing documentation, but in this we will go a little bit further. If you turn it off, you see, if you turn one of the BRX layers off, you see that the symbols disappear. So how come? You can we can open again this XREF. I could have left it open, I know. So we can make a section or we can hide the roof, for example. That's maybe easier. And then I can check out here the chair. It has a symbolic representation, as you can see underneath here. That's because the BRX 2D symbol layer is turned on here in the drawing as well. So this is a component. This component, I can open a copy. So I can open a copy of the component that we already had, and I can change the BRX layer in here. So this is now the symbol. If you go to the properties of this spline, you see that it's on the layer BRX 2D symbol. If I would delete this one and I would make a rectangle, and I would put this rectangle on the layer BRX 2D symbol, and I would save this chair, just save it anywhere you like. And then I would choose this chair and I would say replace. So I want to replace with a new component from a file. So I enter from file. And I go to my desktop where I saved it. And I open the new furniture chair with the rectangle as representation. So the BRX layer is actually just a symbolic representation of your chair. So now I wanted it to be with the rectangle. So I can save my file and I can go back to this section plane and I can update the section. And then you see that the chair has been replaced with the new representation of a square or of a rectangular surface. So that's how you can change symbolic representations. You go into the component and you draw anything you like onto the BRX 2D layer, and then it will appear onto your plan instead of the real cut-through section. So instead of the real cut-through section, you will now have a symbolic representation, namely the one, if I open if I open the chair again, so you see that here there is a symbolic representation that is all put onto the BRX 2D symbols layer. And if the section plane encounters such a symbol and it cuts parallel to the symbol, then it will replace the actual cut with the BRX 2D symbol. So that's how BRX 2D symbols work. You also have BRX 2D plus symbols. For example, in the case of a door, you would like to have the door with the swing as well. So you would like to have the door and the cut-through door frames. So you want and the real cut-through objects and a symbolic representation. So then you have the BRX 2D plus layer. If I turn off or on the boundary to BRX 2D plus swing layer, you will see that the swing appears or disappears. So this is actually also a symbolic representation attached to the component of a door. But now also our door is still visible as cut-through object as well. So that's how you can choose between either a fully symbolic representation or half symbolic representation, half the real representation. So that was it for the BRX 2D layers. And now you may wonder, what about the hatch patterns? Because I would like to change the hatch pattern of a ply. So how do you do that? Well, you go back to your building in which you had the materials, and you go to your plies, to your composition, sorry, and you show only the compositions in project. Then you can find only the compositions in this project, which is now cavity wall brick. So I double click it, and then I find the composition, how it is structured, with which materials it's structured. And then I want to change the hatch pattern of supporting wall brick, let's say. So I double click supporting wall brick, and then you see section, elevation, and 3D. So in a section, it will look like this hatch pattern. In an elevation, it will look like this hatch pattern. In a 3D, it will look like this. So now in the section, I want to double click. I want to change it to, for example, this cross pattern. So I want to click OK. And I click OK here as well. And I save my drawing. And I go to my section and I update my viewport. So I update the section, and you see that the hatch pattern has changed. So now it's the diamonds instead of the lines, the double lines, or just the diagonal lines. So that's how you change a hatch pattern. You also see that the 2D section automatically updates from the 3D drawing. So if you change something in your 3D drawing, for example, if I would now move this couch, and I save the drawing, if I now update my viewport, you will see the couch move. So that's just how easily you can go between your 3D drawing and your 2D generated drawing. Something else we see here is the tag of the wall. So if we revert back to the wall and we select the wall and we look at its properties, we will see that it has a composition, cavity wall brick, which we changed to change the hatch appearance of the supporting wall. But it also has a wall type, which is in this case wall 1 exterior. And if we look back to our plan, we see that this is what is displayed in the tag. You now might wonder how you can change what is displayed inside this tag. So for that, type M-leader style, because this tag is actually an M-leader which represents something. So you now have the wall type style, which is how our wall is represented with a square box, a rectangular box, and a straight leader. So I will now want the leader to be none. And then if you go to the content of the leader, you see that the source block is a wall tag. So if you just close the mLeader style, then you can go to B-edit. And then you can search for the wall tag and click OK to display the wall tag. And then you see that indeed the wall type is taken as the property that should be displayed onto our plan. So I can now change this to, for example, composition. And then underneath that, I want the thickness. So I copy the composition tag and I attribute and I copy it along. So these are actually attributes with a tag, and this tag is what will be represented in the real tag. So now I want the quantity, the thickness, and you specify it by typing in quantity/thickness. The syntax is always the property category name / the property name itself. And then if you want to have, for example, text alignment X, like this sub value, you should type in text alignment semicolon, and then X, for example. So the syntax you can view in your handouts and with a bit more of explanation, but in general you have the property category and then the property name itself. If no category is specified, the BIM category is assumed. And you can now delete the rectangle as well and save the block here. And then if you zoom out, for now it will look like it did not work, but you just have to update your viewport again. And then you see that the cavity wall brick is the composition and the thickness is 320. I see that my mLeader style is probably not adapted as I wanted. So I will go back to wall type style and click none and do a region. And then if you do a region, then you see the leader is gone, but we again need to update our viewport to display the changes. So actually what I should have done first was while I changed the mLeader, I should have done region, and then I should have done the update in that order, because otherwise it would seem like it did not work, but it worked anyhow. And then you can change the standard tags that are taken upon generation of your section in the support folder as well. So if you type support folder again, go to BIM again, sections again, and then we have the section tag DWG. If you open that one up, you don't see anything, but if you type B-edit, so block edit, you will see all the tags. These are all the possible tags that are associated to certain BIM elements, and you can adjust them here like we did in our drawing. So if you do it in only your 2D drawing that you already generated, then it will only change it here. But if you want to change it for all your future tags, you can change it in the section tag just in the same way as we did it. So for now we don't need the section tag. What is good to know is that in the support folder there is also a tag type to XML, to style XML. So this is what links this tag, the mLeader style, with the type of BIM element. So here you see that a BIM wall has been attached to the wall type style mLeader, and this mLeader again refers to the wall tag as I showed you before. So if you would have a member, for example, something which isn't in this list of BIM elements that get a tag just yet, you would need to add a row, but how you do that is very well explained on our help center. So make sure to check out our help center if you want more information on that. So that was how you customized your tags, and the next thing we will do is we will add some dimensions. For that, I want to go to Plan Building 1 Ground Floor and display the view. I want to do it here because it's not full with furniture, so that you, and it's also an easier model so that you can easily see the adjustments. So if I go to the Annotate tab, I can click on Dimension, and if you now grab the line, so not the hatch pattern but the line, you can dimension the line, so it's 3,168 millimeters, I think. So that's how long this wall is. So this is how you dimension. Just click dimension and then you can click an entity. If you click an entity, be careful what you select. So if you select this wall, it will be attached to this wall. And I can show you that in a minute. So if I go to my master drawing, or to double click here on building 1 to open building 1, because we're working in building 1 right now. If I just hide the roof, I can drag this wall. So I can select a solid face and choose drag. So I select the face by hitting Control and choose drag from the model tab. And then I can drag it with 1000, for example, and I can click Save. And then if I go back to my my drawing, I can hit the Update section, and then you will see the dimension. It automatically adjusts itself, and it's still attached to the same elements as your 3D in your 3D drawing. So that's pretty cool that if you change something in your 3D model, the dimensions will automatically update themselves as well. That is if the associative dimensions are toggled on, because otherwise the dimensions will just be in 2D and not be associated to your 3D model. So if I go to the Explorer, you can also see the dimension styles. So there you can see how they are, like how the arrows are, how the leaders are. So this allows you to make a custom entity. By the way, if you have multiple drawings, you can always drag and drop from one drawing to another. So the ISO I could now drag into the dimension styles of the other open drawing. So that's very useful to easily transfer settings from one file to another file. Just if you need some dimension styles from one drawing into another, you can just drag and drop. So that's good to know as well. For the rest, we will also see how you can save this into a template drawing at the end of this module. The next thing I want to show you is how to insert title blocks. So go back to A100 and let me just close everything that's not important. I can either go to the Explorer and go to my blocks. I can see the title block here, and if I double click it, so double click on the icon in front of it, then you will see that the title block is attached to your cursor. You could also do that using Insert, because if you go to Insert, you can also choose the title block, but then you haven't seen a preview yet, and then as well it's attached to your cursor. And you see now it's called Exercise 1, the project. This is because I already specified some properties. You probably haven't have these properties just yet. If you go to your sheet set, you will see that now the BIM section metric is the sheet set which is open, and you can change some things in here. For example, the client name could be BricsCAD. And if you now region, you should see the client name BricsCAD that it's updated. If the fields don't automatically update in the Annotate tab, you can also update fields, choose to update fields. So you can fill in some information here and then it will automatically come into your title block. So that's pretty convenient so that you don't have to manually make this info over and over again. So that's how you insert a title block. You probably also want a sheet list, so you can go right click on the BIM section metric and insert sheet list table. And then you will see a table with all the sheets that are in there, so A100, A300. So these are all the sheets that are in my DST file. So I can give it a title, I could give it a number as well. For example, this one is 1. And if I now region my drawing, you will see that the sheet list automatically updates itself, much like the title block. How you can save those title blocks or so on, you will see at the end of this lesson as well, because this is also the same drawing template that we will make with these title blocks inserted in there. You have here a view label. We can also manually insert that. If you go to the ground floor view and right click it, you can place a call out, place a view label block or place a call out block, a number bubble. You can try both. The view label, it's asking you to import a scale factor and a rotation, and then you see that it's the same as was already there. And if you only want the number bubble to show up, then you can just choose number bubble, enter, and then you have only the number bubble. So that's how you can place call-out blocks yourself. The templates for this call-out blocks are also stored in your support folder, again at the BIM sections, and then you have all these call-out blocks. That's how you can customize these. Or you could choose B-edit again, and then you will have the call-out blocks that are already in your drawing. And for example, plan call out, and then you can choose to how you give this these sections, for example, these elevations, how these look like onto your plan. Then what we haven't covered yet are the interior elevations. So if you go to building 2 and you select the room, it's a bit hard to see because it's in white, so I will just place it in red. So you see now the room we have here. You can generate, if you right click and go to model tab, you can define interior elevations, and then it will automatically create interior elevations. These are those sort of elevation lines that you see. And if you go to your structure browser and open up the sections, you will see that you now have 6 interior elevations and 1 interior floor plan. And if you right click and generate those sections, then they will be all generated. And if you right click again and open the model, then you will open the drawing and you will see that you have created some interior elevations which can be useful, for example, for switches. You could arrange them nicely onto your sheet. If you save the file, you will see the interior elevations in your sections appearing, and you will also see them in your sheets appearing. If they wouldn't appear there, you can always go to sheet set setup and include them here. I don't need to do that because it automatically came there. So that's how you add interior elevations to your drawing. And the last topic we will cover is to generate schedules. So you already see a schedule here. So you can update the schedule and you can display the schedule. And then you will see all the doors inside this model. And I can now make from building 2, make a window schedule as well. So I will show everything again. I will save the file and I will make a schedule from our master model. So I will just let me close off the elements that I don't need anymore. I now only want the master file and I want to create a door schedule from this one. I just update all the models so that we have the latest state of Xrefs, and then you can right click on the schedule category and choose add schedule. This time you already did this in the basic module, so now we will just base it onto a window definition instead of a door definition. You can call it windows, and then your result file path can be a new drawing, for example S2. Then you can click next. You don't want to extract entities from blocks, so you put this one off. Otherwise it takes more time and you get way too much detail. And then this is good. You want to combine equal rows so that they combine into an accounted list, and you want to include a name column. So you want to click finish then right click and update the schedule, right click again and display it. And then you see all the windows inside this model. If you would update your drawing, then these will be updated as well. Now what I need, I see here that I have a story which is not very relevant since everything is on the ground floor. So I could have deselected that in the setup, but I can also go to my schedule properties, right click on the schedule and go to schedule properties. And then the data extraction file is windows.txt in my exercise. So I can go to my exercise folder and choose your windows.txt. And then you can just open it in Notepad, for example, and you will see here the property story/story if you just delete that one and save the file. And if you do the same for the doors, you just delete the row that says story. And then if you now update the schedule, so right click and click update, then you will see that the story column disappears. So that's what we wanted. That's another way, a sort of power user way to delete the story from the schedule. And if you click update for the doors again, you will see the story disappear. So that's how you can easily delete one of the rows from your schedule. So what I want to do next is I want to make a schedule from my furniture, but I also want that as a data extraction, and I want to get it into Excel. So I go back to my master file and I open up my building with the furniture in it. So I open up building 2 it is, and then in my structure browser, in my building elements, building 2, ground floor, I select all my furnishing elements, and then I type in data extraction. Then I can create a data extraction definition, and I want to call it furniture. So I give in a name for my data extraction definition. I don't want to base it on an existing data extraction definition as I will start from scratch. I don't want to include entities from blocks because it would take us too deep into the data extraction. And then you see all the entities that we chose to have this block of, to have this data extraction of. And then you can click next. And then some things will load. You have here the furniture information. I want article number, cost, and manufacturer. I click them, all of them on. And I want to combine equal rows and include a name column, so I click next. So it's basically the same as a schedule, but now we are outputting it to CSV. So here you see output to CSV, and you can in your exercise folder you can make a CSV file called furniture. You can choose your delimiter. It's best to choose the one that's from your system. And you could create a table with the data extraction definition as well. Then it will insert a table into your model space. I don't want that now, and I don't want to mess with the table style either, as I won't create a table. So I will click finish. And if I now go to my training folder, so I go to my, I go to my drawing documentation advanced exercise. I now see a CSV file, and if I open that, you will see that you now have the article name, the article number, the cost, and the manufacturer. So this is how you can get your data extraction into an Excel sheet. But what I want to show you is how our furniture DXD looks like. So we now have a bunch of entity types which are hard-coded to these ones from this file. I don't want that now. I want to be able to create a schedule with this data extraction definition at any time. So I want to choose an asterisk which says you're free to choose everything and the entity types. But we only chose furniture, so we should have somewhere, keep that in mind, we should have somewhere something to select only furniture. The settings you don't want to mess with either. The properties, these are good, so you can still leave it as it is. The table format options we also don't need to mess with. Then the selection set, as we will do this on a generic element, we completely want to cut the selection set out of it. And what we want to insert is something called filter. So it's a new heading. We have settings, entity types, properties, table format options. And at the bottom, just add filter. And there you can type something of the format type equals, double equal, furnishing element. And this will say that the type, so between brackets, equals to a furnishing element. If you want two types in the filter, then you have to use an OR command, and you can see how the syntax is on the help page as well. So if you want more information on how to add filters, you can go take a look at the help page on the data extraction definition page. So this is how I want my furniture DXD to be. So click save and close it. And then in my projects, I want to add a schedule now. And I want to base it on an existing data extraction definition. So I go to the one that I just created. So in my training folder, my starter files, again, drawing documentation advanced, exercise. I now have the furniture DXD, and I open that one and I call the schedule furniture, for example. The DXD already exists, so I will call it furniture schedule, so that you, if it creates, it always automatically creates a new data extraction definition, and then it will not overwrite the one we already had. So if I give it a new name, the model we start from is again our master model, and what we want to save as is, let's say, as schedule 3. So I click next. I see that here now extract entities from blocks is already checked off, because this is it's specified like that in our DXD. So I click next. And then I will see article cost and manufacturer. Article number, cost, and manufacturer are checked on. And also 2 extra things are checked on, block view property and block view property 2. These are the elevations that you see, just like we saw in our windows. It's actually quite useful to see them, so I will leave them on. These are not specified in your DXD file, but well, they are in the end, but we hadn't specified them beforehand, and that's why it still pops up as a suggestion. So I will leave this suggestion as it is and click finish. Now I will update my schedule. It could take a bit of time because it's now making views from all our furniture. And now I see that it's done, so I can display it. And now you see an entire list with the elements. So you have a rack of a coat rack, you have a bed. So with this preview, you kind of are able to see better what the schedule is about. So that's quite useful that we included our block view properties in there anyhow. So that's how you make a data extraction definition from scratch. You can see way more on the help center, and I suggest if you want to dig deeper into this, it's a very useful matter. So the last thing I want to cover is how to create a sheet set template. I already said it quite a lot of time. At the end of this session, I will show you how to create a sheet set template. So if I open, for example, if I open ground floor, so if I display the view, I could save this drawing, or I can save any DWG as a DWT, a drawing template file, and then everything in there will be kept as a template. So layers will be in there, the title blocks will be in there, blocks in general will be in there, the tags will be in there, so everything you can imagine, I mean the M-leader styles are in there, the line types are in there, the hatch patterns are in there that you loaded into your drawing. So basically everything that you loaded into your drawing or that you customized yourself will be stored in the drawing template. So you could choose any drawing and make a template out of this, but it's maybe not ideal to start off like that. So I suggest you to edit a copy directly. So you could go to open, and then you can open a DWT format, and you could go to your templates part, which is in the app data, local Bricsys BricsCAD, and then your version and your language, and then in the templates folder. You can also arrive there by typing in settings and typing in template. So then you will see the template part is this part. If I open that up and just copy paste the link into my Windows Explorer, you will get into the templates part, and then you will see all the templates, and you can open one up here and edit it and save as a DWT again, or you can make a copy and work from that. If you just click a DWT file, it won't open as a DWT file, but it will open as a DWG file, because you can directly start modeling onto it, and it will make a new drawing instead of a new template. So if you want to save it as a template, you literally have to do save as, and then here choose drawing template and save your file as a drawing template. If you put it in the same location as the other templates, this will be available. If you do new wizard and you do start from template, you will see all the templates that are available. These will it will look in your templates folder path, so the one you set in your settings, to find all these files, and then you can start from one of these files, and then it will open a new drawing. For example, now I have a shape drawing with the little man. So new wizard, start from template, choose a template, for example sheet, millimeter, click finish, and you will enter the sheet template. And you can store as many templates as you want. And again, I will sum up what you can store. You can store title blocks, you can store layers in there, you can store colors that you imported, you can store line types that you imported, you can store hatch patterns that you imported, you can store blocks that you created, you can store text styles, you can store dimension styles, and you can store page setups. So basically a lot that you can specify. So certainly worth to take a look at if you want to customize your entire drawing process. A drawing template could be the solution for you. So that concluded this lesson. So I hope you learned a lot. You can always check back on the help page for more information about these advanced topics, because we can go very broad, but I needed to keep it to an acceptable portion. So that's why we will stop here. And I hope you will enjoy the other modules. If there are any more that you want to follow, please do, and let us know what you think of these training videos, and hope to see you again. Bye!